Okay, sorry about that, folks. Battery got to the red, so I have to do it over here, the second part. But anyway, like I was saying, the last game to round out the New Year's Eve edition of bowl games, college bowl games, will be the Chick-fil-A Bowl, and that will pit Duke versus Texas A&M. Now it's kind of surprising that last year Texas A&M was in the Cotton Bowl, which is now going to be next year, starting next year, is going to be one of those every now and then semifinal bowl games, if you will, to get to the national championship. Might even be the national championship itself. But anyway, the Chick-fil-A Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia will pit Duke versus Texas A&M, and that will be at 6 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN, and that will round out the New Year's Eve edition of bowl games. That's right, the New Year's Eve edition of bowl games will be rounded out with that bowl game, with the Chick-fil-A Bowl. And then on New Year's Day, we kick it off with two games right at 9 a.m. Pacific, right at 9 a.m. Pacific time, both one on ESPN2 and the other on ESPNU. The one that's on ESPN2 is the Gator Bowl, and that will be Nebraska and Georgia from Jacksonville. The Gator Bowl, Nebraska and Georgia, and that'll be at 9 a.m. Pacific time on ESPN2. And then the Heart of Dallas Bowl, which is played in the Cotton Bowl Stadium. The Heart of Dallas Bowl will be UNLV versus North Texas, and that will be at 9 a.m. as well, and that will be on ESPNU. So you got one at 9 a.m. on ESPN2, which is the Gator Bowl, Nebraska and Georgia, and at the same time on ESPNU, you have the Heart of Dallas Bowl. You have UNLV versus North Texas. And again, like I mentioned with Tulane, like I mentioned with North Carolina, essentially that's going to be a home game, if you will, almost a home game for North Texas. But North Texas, UNLV will meet in the Heart of Dallas Bowl on New Year's Day on ESPNU at 9 a.m. Pacific time, at the same time that the Gator Bowl will be shown on ESPN2, and that will be Nebraska and Georgia. And then, an hour or so later, we got two games that will start an hour or so later, basically at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. One is the Capital One Bowl. That'll be Wisconsin and South Carolina in the Capital One Bowl from Orlando, and that'll be on ABC at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And then we have on ESPN, starting at that same time, on ESPN, we have the Outback Bowl, which is Iowa versus LSU. Iowa Hawkeyes and LSU Tigers will meet in the Outback Bowl at 10 a.m. Pacific time on ESPN. At the same time, ABC will be airing the Capital One Bowl featuring Wisconsin against South Carolina. So those two games will start at 10 a.m. Pacific. And then we get to the final BCS Bowl games on New Year's Day. It'll be the final time that these two games on New Year's Day will be presented under the BCS banner. And for one of them, it'll be the last time until about a year or so later that they'll be looked at as a regular bowl game, because they will be looked at as the bowl game next year, but more along the lines of, whoever wins that bowl game will be the bowl champions, but it just means they're moving on to the national championship. I know, kind of confusing. But the first one is the 100th, and I'll tell you this, I'm darn sure, if you will, going to be recording this. It'll be Stanford, second year in a row, in the Rose Bowl, against Michigan State. And it's Michigan State's first trip to the Rose Bowl since 1987. Yeah, a long time. You're essentially looking at about a 26-year, well, it's going to be a 27-year drought of not being in the Rose Bowl. I mean, they've been to other bowl games. Capital One, formerly the Citrus, Outback. You know, they've been to other games out there like what? The Alamo Bowl, they've been there. I'm not sure if the Cotton Bowl took them one time or what, but this will be the first time they've been back at the Rose Bowl in 27 years when this happens. For the first time in 27 years, Michigan State will be in the Rose Bowl, and they will face Stanford. And this is the 100th Rose Bowl. I'm definitely recording this one. It'll be on ESPN at 2 p.m. Pacific time. 2 p.m. Pacific time. And you know they're going to make this a big deal. Because not only is the 100th Rose Bowl, it's also the second year in a row Stanford's been there. And for the first time in 27 years, it'll be the first time in 27 years, Michigan State will be there. And then to round out the day of New Year's Day bowl games, to round it out, we will have the Tostitas Fiesta Bowl. We have the Fiesta Bowl. And for the first time for both teams, it'll be UCF Central Florida, and Baylor. I mean, if you would have said, here's the thing. If you, a sports fan, sportscaster, reporter, whatever, if you would have said when the BCS first started back in 1998, if you would have said back in 1998, when this BCS thing started, that Baylor and UCF would ever be in a BCS bowl game of any kind throughout its history, people would have laughed at you. People except for the Central Florida fans and Baylor fans. People except for the Central Florida student body and the Baylor student body. People except for the Central Florida alumni and the Baylor alumni. Everybody else would have laughed at you. They would have said, there's no way, these teams don't have that ability to do it. They don't have that, they don't have that determination. They don't have that kind of power. They can't really do. They're not that good. Well, guess what? They're in the BCS for the first time in the last year of the BCS. So, people that always criticize Central Florida, always criticize Baylor, are going to now have to eat their words, because not only are both teams in the BCS, but they're facing each other in a BCS bowl game in the last year of the BCS. What a way to go out. I mean, and think about it. What was it? Central Florida's first year in the big leagues, if you will, the big leagues. Central Florida's first year in the big leagues. And formerly what was the Big East Conference is now the AAC, the All-American Conference. Or the American Athletic Conference. The AAC, the American Athletic Conference. What a first year in the big leagues, if you will. What a first year in the BCS leagues, if you will. Not only are they the inaugural AAC champions, formerly Big East champions, formerly the Big East, not only are they the AAC champions in the AAC's first year, the inaugural champions of the AAC, formerly Big East. I know I sound like a broken record there. But now, they're going to be in a BCS game, which is kind of cool. I mean, for any team that's played a majority of their run, in non-BCS leagues, if you will, or non-BCS conferences, always hope to become a BCS buster. Well, UCF doesn't have to worry about that no more because now they're in the BCS. They're in a BCS conference, and now they're eligible for it. Now they're not only eligible for it, but now they're in it. So for anybody that thought at the very beginning when this whole BCS thing started that Baylor and UCF would never stand a chance, guess what? You got to eat your words now. And they're going to probably put on one of the better games of the year. I wouldn't be surprised, just to prove the critics wrong. The critics and the doubters that thought they would never get to this level, wrong. I'm pretty sure they're going to do that. But anyway, that rounds out the New Year's Day portion of college bowl games, and that rounds out the final two bowl games on New Year's Day that run under the BCS banner. And then the following night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN, it'll be the final edition of the Sugar Bowl under the BCS banner. It'll be the final edition of the Sugar Bowl under the BCS banner. It'll be Oklahoma and Alabama. Now, I mentioned this before. I said Oklahoma would need Oklahoma State to mess up, or they would have to beat them and other things. And even the analysts, even those at all the sports places, even those at all the sports places, if you will, ESPN, CBS, all of them have all said that Oklahoma would need to beat Oklahoma State, and they would need some other ways of getting there, because they were in a position, Oklahoma was in a position where they can get the at-large, and they did. So it's Oklahoma, Alabama, and I know there's a lot of Crimson Tide fans and alumni that are going to say Oklahoma is going to get destroyed, just like Oregon's going to destroy Texas. Well, you know what? You're probably right, but don't count out Oklahoma. Oklahoma was an underdog to Oklahoma State, and look what happened. So don't count out the Sooners. Believe me, don't count them out just yet. You know, they may be an at-large bid, but they can also be a spoiler for Alabama. So don't count them out just yet. Don't count them out just yet, folks. Don't count them out just yet. But yeah, that's the final edition. That's the final Sugar Bowl. This will be the final Sugar Bowl under the BCS. And I think it's going to be ending with a good matchup between the Crimson Tide and the Oklahoma Sooners. Then the following day, we have on January 3rd, also at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, on ESPN, we will have the final edition of the Orange Bowl, the Discover Orange Bowl, under the BCS banner. And it will be Clemson and Ohio State. Clemson and Ohio State. Clemson gets in as an at-large bid, and also because of the ranking. And Ohio State gets in as well as an at-large bid because of the ranking. So Clemson, I should say, and Ohio State both get in as at-large bids. And also the reason Clemson gets in is due to the fact that Florida State is going to be playing in another game to round out the last college bowl season involving the BCS. So yeah, Clemson gets in because of Florida State going to the national championship, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But Clemson takes Florida State's place, and they will face the large selection of Ohio State. And I know a lot of people are saying the same thing people are saying about Alabama, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Texas, that essentially Ohio State's going to kill Clemson. And you know what? Maybe you're right, but again, don't shut out the Tigers of Clemson just yet. Don't shut them out just yet, folks, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen in those games. And so it might be a good game, and it might be a blowout. Who knows? But that's the matchup that will end the Orange Bowl's run under the BCS banner. That's the matchup we get. It's going to end the Orange Bowl's run under the BCS banner. That's what's going to end our run, folks. Clemson and Ohio State. That's what's going to end our run. The Orange Bowl's run under the BCS banner. So, and again, don't underestimate Clemson. Just because they didn't beat South Carolina doesn't mean they're not going to beat Ohio State. Don't underestimate them, folks. Do not underestimate the Clemson Tigers. But I'm not saying Ohio State's not going to want to go out there and basically beat the living you-know-what out of Clemson. I'm not saying they're not going to want to do that. I'm not saying they're going to want to do that, folks. I'm not saying they're going to want to do that. So, but yeah, that'll basically be the Orange Bowl matchup that will end the Orange Bowl's run under the BCS banner, Clemson and Ohio State. And then we get the Cotton Bowl, and this will be the last time the Cotton Bowl is treated as basically a larger, major bowl game. This will be the last time the Cotton Bowl gets treated sort of like a regular non-BCS bowl game, or a regular major non-BCS bowl game. And it will feature a reunion of the Big 12. It'll be Oklahoma State against the former Big 12 rivals in Missouri. That's right. No matter what happens, it's like Missouri or Texas A&M cannot get away from the old Big 12 opponents. It's like, like I said, it's no matter what. It's like Missouri and Texas A&M, 2 years in a row. Their season, it's like for the first 2 years, it's just like Texas A&M last year, the first year in the SEC, great year. Who did they face in the Cotton Bowl? Oklahoma. It's like they never left the Big 12. And now in their second year, Missouri goes to the Cotton Bowl. Who do they get? Oklahoma State. Go figure. But yeah, Oklahoma State and Missouri will meet in the Cotton Bowl. In the last year that the Cotton Bowl will be treated as a non-major factor, in a non-major bowl game, basically. I mean, it's a major bowl game, but not as the major bowl game. So it'll be the last year it's treated like that, because next year it, along with the Chick-fil-A Bowl, which is also going to be ending its last run as a mid-bowl, if you will, semi-major bowl, same as these. That's basically what Cotton Bowl and Chick-fil-A Bowl are, semi-majors. But it'll be the last year for both of them as semi-majors, because next year they get elevated because of the playoff system. So yeah, in its last year as a semi-major bowl game, it'll be Oklahoma State, Missouri, a reunion of Big 12 opponents and rivals. And that will be on January 3rd on Fox. On Fox, it'll be Oklahoma State and Missouri. Oklahoma State and Missouri in the Cotton Bowl on January 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on Fox. So that ought to be good. And then we get into the mid bowl games, the mid-sized bowl games again. And when I look at these games, I look at them just like with the Heart of Dallas Bowl. I look at them as not just being scheduled the way they are, but I look at them as trying to show and treat the smaller to mid conference schools as something more than what they are. Basically giving them the opportunity to know what it feels like to play in the new year. That's how I look at the Heart of Dallas Bowl, and that's how I look at these. It gives these teams from Conference USA, Sun Belt, and all that an opportunity to be like, so this is what it feels like to play in the new year. It makes us feel great. It makes them feel important. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel important. And it's not just because of the scheduling. It's also because I believe they want to give these schools an opportunity to show that they are worthy of playing in the new year. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it, folks. And you can argue if that's true or not. You can argue that. You can argue that if you will, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. So with that said, on January 5th at 6 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN on January 5th, Oh, not January 5th, but January 4th, I should say. Let me correct myself. January 4th on ESPN at 10 a.m. Pacific time. 10 a.m. Pacific time. It will be the BBVA Compass Bowl. The BBVA Compass Bowl. And it'll be Vanderbilt in Houston. That's right. Like I mentioned earlier in part 1, in the first video, Pittsburgh is no longer going to be playing, well, Pittsburgh is basically broken its run of BBVA appearances, and now Vanderbilt and Houston will be playing each other instead. And there's also basically the fact that Pittsburgh is no longer part of the AAC, formerly the Big East. Go figure. So, yeah, in the BBVA Compass Bowl, it's going to be Vanderbilt and Houston, SEC against AAC. So, it's still a major conference, and I guess you could say still a bit of a major bowl game, because it's not only a New Year's game, but it also involves major teams from 2 major conferences. So, there you go. And then this is what I'm talking about by allowing teams from this mid to smaller conferences, if you will, allowing teams in the smaller conferences, if you will. Again, this is what I'm talking about when I say the mid to smaller conference schools getting a shot to kind of know what it feels like to play on New Year's, or at least play into the New Year. And I'm talking about the GoDaddy.com Bowl, and that'll be Arkansas State versus Ball State in the GoDaddy.com Bowl. And again, this is what I'm talking, like I said, this is what I'm talking about when I feel that when they do this, it helps, elevate the prestige of these schools, even if it is a mid-major bowl, or a small major bowl, whatever you want to call it. Trying to get my dog's attention so she doesn't bark at something that's not there. But anyway, to me, a bowl game like the GoDaddy.com Bowl gives a school like Arkansas State and Ball State an opportunity to say, hey, we're playing in the new year, we're important. It gives them that confidence, it gives them that confidence they need to say, hey, if we could play on New Year, in the new year, just imagine what we could do if we ever got to that level to where we could actually get to the big time. And eventually they will. And that's what the GoDaddy bowl games like Heart of Dallas and GoDaddy.com Bowl do for these schools, in my opinion. It gives them that confidence. And the GoDaddy.com Bowl will be played on January 5th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN. And then we end the final bowl season, the final college bowl season under the BCS banner, the final college bowl season under the BCS banner with the national championship, which will be played on January 6th at 5:30 p.m. between Florida State and Auburn at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. The final national championship game under the BCS banner, the final college bowl season under the BCS banner concludes, or comes to a climax, if you will, with Auburn and Florida State. 2 teams that when this whole college bowl season started, ladies and gentlemen, no one would have projected would face each other in a BCS. Well, probably would project that they would face each other in the BCS, but never in the national championship. Because at the beginning, pretty much the projected team was Alabama and Oregon. And look where they are. Alabama is in the Sugar Bowl, Oregon is in the Alamo Bowl. So again, these are 2 teams in the national championship game, Florida State and Auburn, whether you like them or not, that nobody saw at the very beginning competing for the national championship in the final year of the BCS system, in the final national championship game under the BCS system. And do I think it's going to be good? Well, Florida State's been basically hyped up as this juggernaut, and basically could be a team that when Auburn faces them could literally destroy Auburn. But stranger things have happened. Auburn has proven that they can win. They can beat the biggest schools, not just the biggest schools, but basically beat the opponents that are more favored than them. They've proven that. And I'm not going to be surprised if they do it here, but this ought to be a good matchup. Whether you like Florida State or not, whether you like Auburn or not, this is going to be a good game. So, that, ladies and gentlemen, is your entire 2013-14 bowl season, the final bowl season, college bowl season, under the BCS banner, and that too will be the last national championship under the BCS banner. Next year we start with the playoffs system, the 14 playoff, and a lot of people are already projecting that as the years go on, we're going to go from 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. Who knows? But again, we'll just say again, what a way to end the BCS era for what a way to end the college football season under the BCS banner. What a way to end the BCS era, whether you like the decisions or not. And we just have to wait and see what happens next year with this playoff system. And if this playoff system is a success, it's a success. If it's a bust, they might go back to something similar to the BCS. Who knows? But that's all I'm going to say, folks. I'll provide the link down below so you guys can check out the listings yourself. If you want to, comment if you like. Take your time in watching this two-part video. I know it's long and I apologize for that. But take your time, enjoy these bowl games, and maybe this will help you decide which ones you want to DVR, DVD record, or whatever. So until then, God bless, take care, comments are welcome down below.